Welcome back on deynonmod. Today I want to propose you the analysis about the faction about FleshEater course that it's available from now in General Handbook 2017 of Age of Sigmar from Games Workshop. Here is the analysis about the battle traits, command traits, battle artifacts course, the artifacts that are available, so you'll be able to see what there is inside. Here up you'll see the link about the folder that had the amount of video about this release of the general handbook with the other alliances and the great alliances def. So now we can start. Talking about the battle traits, the first one that is the deathless courtiers instead of the deathless minions. It's a bit quite changed because from the death and death hero referring from the Great Alliance's death, we move to the FleshEater Kurz as units and FleshEater Kurz heroes as heroes. So it means that if you are planning to use the allies as such, you have to be able to make the allies in the way that can have such trait refer to their battle trait itself. Otherwise, you'll not be able to refer to the battle traits Deathless Courtiers because it refers as the keyword. And it's quite an important change. In some way, it's a way to make the Alice's Death Eater course by itself, because it put in the way to pressure to use it better. And so it's not so bad anyway in this way. Anyway, I don't think if it's good or not, it has to make some effort to see if it's available. And about the second battle trait that is Feeding Frenzy, in some way it's a way to improve it, because it's a sort of Red Fury from the general Great Alliance Death. Why? Because if the unit with the FleshEater Kurz is able to slay an enemy unit, it can, with a roll of 6, again pile in and attack again. It can be used only once, so you can use only for attack a second once in that combat phase. You can't use for a third or fourth one. In the next turns you'll be able to do, but in the same turn you can do it only once. Anyway, you have to consider that it's the unit that kill. Even if you have more units that have in the combat, you don't have the possibility to do it for each unit. So only the units that are killing that unit, that kill, then can use this option. It's not so good because it's on 6, but anyway it's something more that you have, so it's not so bad anyway. And moreover, it applies to all the units with the FleshEater course, and so it means that doing it you can have more units in the field if they are in combat that can do such a thing. So it's quite useful. Moreover, if you take note about what are the Warscore battalions of the FleshEater course that are available, so it can be quite interesting that way. And now we can pass to what is the Course of the Delusions. It's a way to improve the army, and it's unrelated completely to the command traits of the general. Even if the general is slain, these are applied. So it's something to improve the power of the FleshEater Course. So we start with the Crusading army, and it's really interesting delusion. Why? Because it let you reroll the dice roll of 1 when making a run or charge for the FleshEater course units. So it means that it can be a really good thing, because if you are not able to charge, for example, because you do a double 1 roll or you take a low roll with a 1, you can reroll that die, and so having a sort of double roll to make the charge and so on. And even with the run, it can be a lot way to make a faster moving. So it's really interesting, for maybe one of the best. Starting with the second one, that is the Royal Hunt, instead, you have the possibility to reroll the hit and wound roll of 1 for attacks made by FleshEater curse when targeting a monster. It's really focusing one, so if the enemy doesn't have any monster, you are a bit out with this delusion. Anyway, it's interesting because it's really a way to improve the ability combat of the unit. With the first day instead, it's maybe one of really of the, I don't know if it's good or bad, but anyway to improve in general. Why? Because you can reroll the dice roll of 1 when rolling to see if FleshEater curse becomes subject to the feeding frenzy, the battle trait. So it means that if you roll 1, you have second option to do the roll to maybe do a 6 and so to apply the feeding frenzy. So it's not so bad. It's not anyway so good, but it's not so bad. Doing the fourth, that it's matter of honor, you can reroll the hit roll of 1 made by friendly FleshEater curse units when targeting a hero. And if the model is also the general, you can roll the wounds roll 1, 2. So it means that against the enemy heroes, it's really good and important. So if you want to use your units to be sure to have a pressure on the opposite units heroes and general, it's quite a good delusion. And about the grand tournament, you can reroll the hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by FleshEater curse heroes other than the general. So if you play a bit of heroes from the FleshEater curse, it can be quite interesting because it improves them completely. They are not related to what they are going to hit, but it improves the general them. So I think that it's quite good. It's referring only to the heroes of the FleshEater curse, but anyway can be quite useful. And about the last one, that Defenders of the Realm, I don't find it quite useful, but anyway it's a bit good. The problem is that yes, it makes you reroll the save rolls of 1 for the FleshEater curse units, but at the same time they had to be in their own territory, and the FleshEater curse had the obsession to go to run towards the enemy, so I don't find it really useful, but it's not so not useful anyway. Anyway, they are free, and so they are improving of the FleshEater curse armies. And anyway, I think the best anyway it's the Crusader army. The second one, I think that is the Grand Tournament and the Matter of Honor too. So they are useful, but I think anyway the best is the Crusading army. And now we can talk about the command traits, about the FleshEater curse Alleagiance. And now we can start with the first, that it's Bringer of Death, that let you to reroll the wounds rolls of 1 for the general. It's not so good, but not so bad, because it doesn't apply to a particular weapon or so on, so it can be used each time. And I think maybe for a Dragon Breath of 2 plus that you can reroll, so it almost surely hit. I think that or wound is not so bad, I think. And about the second one, frenzied FleshEaters, that allow you to reroll the feed hit rolls when the general is subject to the feeding frenzy. I think that it's almost useless because the general has to obtain the 6 to apply the feeding frenzy, so I don't find it quite useful. About the third one, that it's Majestic Horror, that let you to use the command ability twice to summon the monsters to the battlefield. I think that I'm a bit not so sure if useful or not, because from one side you had that you can use twice, but if you are doing the matched play, you can't summon the same unit twice. So you can summon 2 different units, okay, but not the same. I don't think that it's so good. Okay, in some way you can play less units on the field and use it to summon the units from the border and so on. So it's not so bad, but I don't know. Sincerely, I can't decide if it's good or not. It's strategic, this surely, but I'm not sure that it's so useful. Only it. So depends on what you want to obtain. But strategically, it can be interesting. But I'm a bit not so sure about the real efficacy of it. About the fourth one, that is Savage Beyond Reason, add one to the dice roll to see if the general is subject to the feeding frenzy. Here, okay, you do it by 5. Okay, but it's not so good anyway. Sincerely, uh, I don't know. I don't find it quite good anyway, because you are relating to kill a unit and then do it. I don't find it quite good, simply. And about Dark Wizardry, it's interesting because, okay, you had the similar one about the Great Alliance Death, that it's the Master of the Black Arts. But about Flesh Eaters, it allows you to use some models that can be used, for example, to have it as general, but in the way to have but certain battle lines. But at the same time, doing this, it doesn't allow you to do other things. In this way, you have a better role. You have a completing model. So it's I think that it's good to have. Not the best, but with the FleshEater course, I think that it can be used quite good. And the next one, it's completely delusional. And I think that this one it's maybe the best, because as long as the Jana is alive, at the start of the hero phase you can change the delusion that the army suffers. It means that you can decide to have the best delusion at the start in the army decided, and then changing according to what you need. So I think that really it's the best of the command traits, because it's one of the best. Followed by Majestic Horrors, even if I'm not so sure about it, but anyway can be one of the best. And Dark Wizardry, that it's good to apply to certain reasons, certain armies. So anyway, Completed Illusion, I think that it's almost a must to have. If you want to play the FleshEater course Alleagiance, I think that is anyway the best to play, because it's really something that has a sense to be used. And now we can talk about the artifacts of the FleshEater course Allegiance. We can start from the first, that is the Splint Worn Brooch, that allows you to subtract 1 from the casting roll made by enemy wizard within 12 inches from this model. This can be seen not as quite useful, but if you think that you have Wascon battalions as the ghost patrols that allow you to enter from the border of different types and moving closer to mages from the enemy, or you assign it to fast units that can move in the way that are in the range of the enemy mages. Here you can see that it's not so useless. It can be used quite good, because okay, magic in Age of Sigmar, it's not so preponderant, it's not so important, but for some type of armies, or anyway some type of castings and so of spells that can be ruined because they are not the bonus, or they are not reach the amount available to be casted, or even the way that make them more affordable to dispel. Here you can see that it can be useful anyway. Maybe not as the main object to give to an hero, but anyway can be strategic one. Then we have the Grim Guardland, that is the second artifact. Here it lets you subtract 2 from the bravery of the enemy units within 6 inches of this model. Here it can seem useless, but remember that you have units like the Crypt Flyers and the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. If you think about it, they are quite useful because units like the Crypt Flies that otherwise would be not so good come in to be much more affordable and much more interesting to play. And in the case of the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, it's even better because you can add on the d6 and 6 of the maximum that you can realize with it, and adding 2 to the result of the mortal wounds that you can inflict. So it's really interesting in the way. Maybe it's made for some specific armies and so on, but I think that it's one of the best artifacts of this faction. The third object is the Killing Bone that you let you give a melee weapon of this model an increase in range of the weapon of 3 inch. So basically you can improve a weapon that has a range of 1 or 2 inch to the 3 inch, or you can use a model to be sure that even if it's covered with a line of models that are between him and the opposite model, to anyway can hit. It's not so bad, but anyway it's not so good. I think that it's one of the most passable that you can ignore about the objects as artifacts that you can give to one of your heroes. The fourth artifact is the Flyant Pennant. Here I think that it's quite interesting. It's a one for battle use only. And the penalty moreover is that has a range of 6 inch of availability. But what is important is that let one increase the amount of the charging, so you can charge also unit till 15 inch. And the most important thing is that every unit will be inside within the 6 inch of the range can anyway add 3 inch to the charge roll. And if you combine this to the Crusade Army's Delusions, you can see that any unit within 5 inch from these units are chargeable without any problem. And even more if you consider that you can roll the ones for the Crusading army. So it's really one of the best artifacts to consider. Moreover, because for example, if you have what's called battalions as the Call Patrols, you can have the unit arriving closing and then having even if you are more than 9 inch from the opponent's enemy, you have to realize not 9 but 6. So it's really interesting thing to do using this flying pennant. Or even if you are really fast units that can move closer to the enemy, you can even do a really fast charge. So you are almost sure to be able to charge. So an alpha strike that it's really imposing. So I think that this one is one of the best. It's really delicate to use because it's one use only. But anyway, I think that it's quite useful. The fifth one is the Blood River Chalice. I think that this one it can be useful. It lets you heal in the hero phase d6 wounds to a model. I don't think that it's quite useful for models that they are not really heavy as wounds, but I prefer maybe to use it on model like the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist and the Ghoul King on Dragon Zombie. But anyway, it lets you to recover wounds quite fast, so it lets you to recover the ability to create trembles for the model itself. So it's I think one of the best, but it's relating only to the model itself, so it's a bit ambiguous as thing anyway. And the sixth artifact is the Heart of the Gargant Fist. This is an artifact that can be used only once for battle and let you to reroll the failed wound rolls for this model in the combat phase. And it involves so all the attacks of the model itself. I think that it's the worst of the artifacts that you can have. Okay, if you combine it with the magic of the Ghoul King on Dragon Zombie, it can be quite better. But anyway, I don't find it quite good because uh, sincerely I find the other that are more compatible with the army and so on. So I think that this one is the less good between all the artifacts. Now, as the final considerations about the FleshEater course Alleagiance abilities and so on, I think that it's not so bad. What it emerges from these things is that it's a FleshEater course referred. I mean that the synergy that you can create between the units using the different abilities, the battle trait, and so on, is almost referring to themselves. Difficulty you can have allies that can be suited to be good inside. So you have to pay attention to such a thing. What's it important is that combining the artifacts with the command traits and the delusions, even if for some choices you have a bit more constrict, you can only choose the same ones. I think moreover about the command traits. You can see that there are quite a lot of things that can be combined to have different and characteristics armies about FleshEater course. So I think that it's quite good anyway to realize as thing. So some things maybe as the sixth artifact can be discarded, but anyway a lot of ways to play can be done. I think, for example, of the reevaluating of the crypt flyers using the green garland or using the flying pennant and maybe use combined with the majestic horror. So you can have really a lot of different things that you can combine and having so the new sense of armies, maybe differentiating a lot using a different ways to have a value of the army. From deynonmod it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.